One minute you're just going about your daily business, and then suddenly all technology and communication stop working. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a world not worth living in. No YouTube, no Instagram, and sadly, no memes. Today we're going to be talking about solar storms.
So today I'll be talking to you about solar storms. Solar storms are the most destructive kind of natural disaster, and today we're going to explain to you why. So first of all, a solar storm is a mix of all the three kinds of solar activity I'm going to explain to you now. So the first kind of solar activity is called solar wind. Solar wind is kind of like just residual energy that's just ejected from the sun. The second thing is a solar flare. A solar flare is obviously like more destructive, but it's not really that bad because the sun's huge and Earth is very small, as I showed you before. It's not to scale, but Earth is really small compared to the sun. So like when it has a solar flare, there's like a really narrow chance it'll hit Earth, and even if it does, we have a really thick magnetic field that'll protect us from all this harmful radiation. So yeah, so that's what a solar flare is. It's just like, so the sun has magnetic fields as well, and when these magnetic fields, they're called anomalies, so like bits that aren't normal, they're like slightly abnormal. So what these do is that they grab a certain chunk of the sun and kind of like eject it out into the solar system. So usually there isn't much of a chance because this is more of a narrow stream of particles. But the next thing I want to talk to you about is a CME. Imagine it's like a solar flare, but it's a lot larger in the fact that it grabs a big chunk and ejects it all over. It's just like a giant explosion on the surface of the sun, it just ejects it all out. It's really cool. The problem is, if Earth gets caught in its crossfire, then what would happen is it would suppress the Earth's magnetic field. So from being this huge, the Earth's magnetic field will end up being only like this big. Okay, because like the charged particles interfere with the magnetic field. So what happens then is more charged particles get into our atmosphere, and when they get into our atmosphere, what they do is they eat away at the ozone layer. I'm pretty sure. So what it does, it eats away the ozone layer, allowing all the sun's UV radiation and all its harmful radiation just to leak onto Earth. And the problem with UV radiation is that it gives you cancer most of the time, especially in high doses like this. So basically, most people would get radiation poisoning. They're most likely radiation sickness, and most of the people that are exposed to the ozone being like destroyed here would get cancer. That's just the sad truth. But later, like my friend Jack will later explain like all the other effects because there's a ton. You wouldn't believe how destructive these are.
Thanks, Raj, for explaining how a CME and all of that is caused. But now I'm going to be talking about the effects of solar flares or CMEs if one were to hit. Now, I could talk for probably about 2 hours on this topic, but I'm going to try to condense it into about 90 seconds, okay? So I'll be real quick. So, first things first, you've got no water, you've got no sewer, which means there's no, like the modern standard of hygiene just drops instantly, and there's no more food other than what is already existent, because most of our stuff is manufactured in factories nowadays, or agricultural techniques incorporate electricity and radio communication. So, what happens when all of that occurs? You're going to get sick, and when you do, times are going to be really nasty. Because who are you going to call? Wait, you can't call anyone. You can't call your mum, your brother, your dad, the fire department, EMS. You can't call any of them. But they can't help you anyway, because hospitals don't have power, your GP doesn't have power, no one has power, and no one can treat you. No one can resuscitate you, no one can scan you for x-rays and MRI. So basically all healthcare is gone. Emergency services are almost instantly incapacitated because of their heavy reliance on radio and telecommunications. They also have heavy reliances on electricity, especially in their own vehicles. So you've got no firefighters from when grandma leaves the oven on, you've got no cops, which I'll return to that later, and you definitely have no emergency medical services. So that's down the toilet. But what happens when every single stock market in the world crashes simultaneously? Unfortunately, such an event is yet to occur. But what I would hypothesize is the Great Depression on a much larger and more instantaneous scale. So when there's no money, what do we commonly see throughout history? We see a lot of crime, especially looting, burglaries, carjackings, crimes where people steal other people's stuff. But who's there to enforce that? We don't have any cops. So what is there to do? But because we have no cops, and because the government cannot communicate, we see an instant collapse in whatever form of societal order that we once had. So that is gone, food is gone, sewer is gone, sickness, no emergency services, no money. Basically, modern life as we know it is finished. So I would definitely not want to live or even survive a CME should one hit. Also, my friend Raj also kindly reminded me on the genetic mutations of the next generation, assuming that there would be a next generation, assuming a few crazy people survive all of this and after all of that radiation are still fertile enough to reproduce. After that, we will probably see several, frankly, hideous mutations of the next generation who will probably be rendered infertile or will not be able to take care of themselves.
Now, how can this be prevented? Well, sadly, the sun does whatever it wants. So, this can't really be prevented, it just happens. However, it can be prepared for a little bit because of this brilliant invention of Michael Faraday, who invented something known as the Faraday cage in the 19th century. Basically, what it consists of is a structure, a wired structure, that can block all electromagnetic radiation. So that if you placed electronic items, batteries, phones, torches, anything you might need after an apocalypse, that is electronic, you can place that in a Faraday cage and it will be safe. For the moment, there are several scientists, especially in the US, researching ways that we can protect our electrical power grid from these events. However, at the moment, as a whole, our society is fairly unprotected. So, if you can, it would be a great idea to invest or just make a Faraday cage. There's heaps of videos on YouTube of how to do it. And just put a few really basic things in there. A few batteries, torches, anything you might need in the event of an apocalypse.